So the button component is potentially the most crucial element on this app. So essentially we're going to get the three states here in the store, and then we are going to make an API request. Dependent on whatever is filled in, we are going to fetch the relevant API URL. And then what we are going to do is display the results. So we'll look at that later on onto the UI. So first off, if I create the button component, so button like so, and then I now need to go into my component folder and create a new folder in here called button, and then create index.tsx file in here. And this will receive two props, so tsrfce, and this is named the button. And the props that we receive for the button are going to be the set images and set is loading. So if I pass these in as well, so back in my dog form in here, paste in set images, and set images is going to be what we receive from the app.tsx at the top level. So I'm just going to pass this down as props. So set images is equal to set images, and then set is loading is equal to set is loading. So all I now need to do is import the button. And now if I save all and go back into my button component and declare an interface for this, and now I'm going to declare the set images and set is loading as any for now until we know what it is that is being passed down. Save and do the same there and save. So as you can see, the button component is being rendered. In my return block, I now want to just bring over what I have. If I bring this over and paste it in, so we have a fetch button first of all that renders a handle images fetch function. So we need to create that when we click the search dogs, and we have a reset button on here that dispatches the action of action type.reset as well. So if I just import the action type first of all, and then I also need the dispatch. So again, we need the use dispatch hook from React Redux. So const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. So now I now need to create this as a function as well. So const handle image fetch, and I'm just going to give it an empty function for now, and then we'll handle that later. And I also now need to bring in the styles. So if I create a new file in here named styles.ts like so, and then I'll just copy the styles and bring them across, but you can look at the styles in your own time. So now I just need to import them in as well, and then the same with the reset button as well. So now if I save all, we should have the two buttons being rendered on the page, which we are doing, as you can see here. So now all it is a case of, if I was to press the reset function, this would dispatch the reset action, which it does. As you can see, reset breathe state resets everything back to its normal state. So now all we need to do is do the images fetch. So if I go into here, there are a few checks that I need to do. So we need to get access to the global state again. So if breathe state is equal to the string of all, which at the moment it is, what we need to do then is we want to dispatch the action of set error to true, because there's nothing has been selected. So what I want to do is again get access to the dog store and then get the use selector. So I've already got this and I'm going to bring it in here. So if breathe state is equal to all, we want to then dispatch the error action as true, because at the minute we don't have a breathe state, therefore we cannot fetch anything. So that's the first argument there set. So we now need to carry on with the function. So the handle images fetch though is an async function. So if I add async in there, because what we need to do is fetch data once we have something other than all in there. So now I'm just going to copy this, paste that in here. If breathe state is not equal to all and the sub breathe state is equal to all, meaning that we have selected a breed but the sub breed we have not selected, what we want to do in this case is we want to make a fetch, so await and then fetch the breed images. So we are using the lib folder and the API helper file in there. So fetch the breed images, and the breed images takes in two arguments. As you can see here, TypeScript is serving me documentation that I have already created. So we take in a breed, which is a string value, and a number. So initially the number is always 1, but we can change that in the state in here. So first argument I'm going to pass is the breed state and paste that in, and then the second one is going to be the number state. Then we want to change the dot then and get access to the data within, and we want to return. And before we return, we want to console log the data that we receive. So console log data that we receive, like so. So what I want to do to hit this is I now also need to import useSelector from React Redux and the root state to get rid of these errors. And now if I save, so now if I go into my console and I want to go into my handle images fetch, so I want to select a breed. So if I select Bryod, for example, and then select a number of 3, and if I click search dog, we now have something being returned in here. So we have a status of success. So that's what we want to check out for first of all. So if the data.status is equal to success, which means we have something returned, and data.message, which is an array, so we want to check the length of the array, so dot length, then what we want to do in here is we want to set the images, which is declared at the app.js level, which is an array, an empty array at the time. So then when we set the images, we can map through the images to display the result. So we want to set the images to data.message, like so. We also want to set isLoading is false, and we want to dispatch the action type of image result to the payload of the length of images here. So as you can see here, we have 3. So now if I save, and now if I press Bryod once again, we are getting the data once again on here, and I want to check my Redux store, and if I scroll to the bottom, we are getting the images results as a payload being passed down as 3 also. We also need to add a catch block in here. So after the then, we want to paste in the catch block of error and remove the console log and save. So the last state to check for now is if the breed state is not equal to all and the subbreed state is not equal to all also, we want to do a different fetch. So the fetch this time will be await fetch subbreed images this time. So what we need to pass now is a breed, a subbreed, and a number. So if I copy this, so the first argument is the breed state, the second argument should be the subbreed state, and then the third argument is the number state. So now I just want to copy the then and catch block because it will be the same, and paste that in here. So now we have almost completed the dog form. What I want to do is make some changes. First of all, the props that we are receiving in the button, I now want to set them as their relevant prop types. So if I find the set images where we are setting it, so if we go into the app.tsx, and for the setter function, if we hover over this, we can see here the set images has a type. So I'm just going to copy this. If I just move this out and hover over these set images and copy this type here. So if I go into the dog form component, set images will have this same type now as react.dispatch set state action of never, and then we are passing this down once more into the button component, and I also want to paste that in here. So we just need to do the same for the set is loading type. So if I go back into app.tsx once again, and if I hover over, we can see it again here. It is a boolean value this time, so I'm just going to put it into the dog form component, and set is loading is now going to be React dispatch of the set state action, like so. I just now need to go again into the button component and change the any type to this. So now if I save, and I also want to go into the dog form component, and in here we declared the error type as false on show error. So what we now need to do is get the error state. So const error state from the dog store is equal to dog store dot error, like so. And instead of show error now of being false, we want to change that to the error state. So if I go down, change this one again, and then change this one again. So now what I also want to do is if I select the breed and then click search, like so, I want the error to show up. So if I save all, and as you can see, the error state in the store is true. So now what we need to do is if I was to reset the search, you can see here it is now false because we've reset the breed state. If I was to click search dogs again, as you can see here, all three drop downs are being highlighted, so we need to change that. So I don't want to pass in the show error prop on the number of images one because it's always got a default. I also don't want to pass it into the subbreed because sometimes there might not be a subbreed, and I want to conditionally render this subbreed now so that if there is a subbreed, then we want to show the drop down. So all I'm going to do here is get the subbreed's length. If it does have a length, then we want to show this as a drop down. Otherwise, we want to render null. So underneath here, I want to render null. So now within this block, we are rendering the drop down here. And now if I save all, we can now see the subbreed is hidden unless we select a breed that has a subbreed inside. So for example, if I selected Australian, the subbreed then pops up. And finally, what I also want to do is, so if we change the main breed, I want to then dispatch the set error action as false. So what I need to do now is go into my helpers. In here, we just need to add dispatch action as false for the action type dot, and then we see the error here. So now if I save all, and now if I was to change the drop down to chow, for example, the set error has been set to false. It doesn't have a subbreed, so the subbreed drop down is not showing. And then I want to render 23, for example, and if I click search, it sets the image results. And then if I was to check the network tab, and as you can see here, we are making an API request with a response here, and we are getting all the images returned. We should get 23 images of chow being returned here. So now if I just go through the dog form itself, I want to just check that my prop types are being rendered correctly. So the interface for the props on this dog form component are correct. And then if I go down into my button component, the props, we have types for them. And then just finally, if I go into my drop down as well, we have the relevant types here. As you can see, show error is optional. So we are only passing it through onto the select a breed input. So now all we need to do is create a result component that will render out the dog images.